What is up, Bat family? Welcome to another week, another breakdown for Batwoman Season 2, at least for now. And, you know, this episode, I would definitely say I enjoyed it more than last week, which is good because the premiere episode, I enjoyed more than the second episode. And the second episode, I just found like, yeah, it was alright. But this episode, I enjoyed marginally more than that. But I think what captivated me a bit more this week is the more reveals that we got and the connections, which I didn't necessarily expect. I'm not saying they were absolutely masterful, some of the best twists I've ever seen on television. I'm just saying that, oh, this is interesting. The more we get into the season, as a season should, as it unfolds progressively, the more you're just like, and that Jack Napier bit at the end, or Jack Napier, should I say, or Napier, it's very intriguing, especially with what Batwoman has explicitly said with regards to the Joker connection before in Season 1. But I have a theory as to how the whole connection between, and there is a connection, like quite literally, no matter what, there's a connection to be drawn here with that end of the episode between Kate Kane, Jack Napier, and Safiyah. And what is that? Well, we will get into that, so I hope you guys like today's video. If you don't, dislike it. I really don't care. If you like it, I really appreciate that support, but if you dislike it, whatever. And of course, subscribe for more Bat-tastic breakdowns like this, or at least I like to try and think they are. But hey, I'm here for the Bat content, and they definitely intrigued me this episode more than I thought they would. But let's first talk about something that I think deserves quite a bit of credit, because I don't think I liked absolutely everything, but what I will say is, when it comes to a CW show, any CW show, and they're casting a character from Bat lore or anything that I'm a big fan of, whether that's not just Batman, The Flash, or whatever, you worry about how they're going to be represented. Will they be done faithfully to the adaptation? Will they be done in like a kind of cringe way? So Victor Zsasz, what do I have to say about Victor Zsasz in, well, his debut in the Arrowverse? What I will say is I was pleasantly surprised. I think that's actually the best way to put it, right? With my expectations for the CW, Batwoman in general, I was pleasantly surprised. Not only did they nail his look, he also just reminded me of John Crye's Lex Luthor. I'm sure everybody has said that in some way, shape, or form. But you can tell this actor, forgive me, I do not know the name off the top of my head, was really enjoying it. It didn't feel like forced. It didn't feel overpronounced or exaggerated like I feel like a lot of CW actors who they might get on for a villain of the week, if you will, can come across at times. I would say there was a decent level of faithfulness to the comics, especially with the design. I really enjoyed that makeup, the scars. It was done perfectly. The fact that they incorporated that into this episode, it didn't feel contrived. It just felt like, oh, he's been hired to do something, like Victor Zsasz would. They implemented what they should have done, and the actor was very good for the role. The only thing I will say is the end is just like when he could have killed Batwoman by cutting her throat or whatever. It's just like, oh no, because of dialogue, they're not gonna do it. But like, that's just stuff I can put to the side. I know it's stuff like that happens all the time. Like, oh, the hero's caught, but like they have to say one more evil thing before when they had the opportunity to kill said hero. But other than that, like, yeah, I really enjoyed in this episode, and it was pleasantly surprising. Now, what other things that made this episode quite interesting is we had, of course, Kate Kane's iPhone or whatever it was, with Jacob trying to get into it, could lead to more clues. Was intrigued to see what Jacob was going to do with that. They delivered at the end of the episode. I would be saving that towards later in the video, because I've got some theories to do with Joker, which I'm not saying are true, but you could connect it to certain things with Safiyah and certain ingredients that she may have up her sleeve. I have quite an interesting theory I'd love to know your Bat family thoughts on. But we also had, of course, the pickup from last week with Sophie and Alice arriving at Coriana. Now, I could be completely wrong here as well, but did they reuse Leanne New? The Arrow Island, like the park or wherever they filmed for that? Maybe somebody in the comments or Canada Graphs may know that. I really have no idea. It's just the first thing that came to my mind. You CGI a few like little ruined buildings in there, and maybe it looks a little bit different. Maybe? I don't know. Now, one of the first things I got written down on my bullet points here is when Safiyah said, keep an eye out on the new girl with regards to Sophie. Now, I felt like it couldn't have been more predictable that she had an interest in her. I have to admit, I thought it probably would go to the extent of, oh, do you want to be trained, blah, blah, blah. And I'm glad they didn't go that ham, but I still wouldn't be surprised if there's some weird arc throughout the season where Safiyah is just trying to recruit Sophie somehow. I don't know. That's just a little throwaway comment, but I know Alice later on in the episode was teasing that Safiyah is into her. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the extent of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if with Sophie, and I can imagine them doing doing like an Arrow Season 3 kind of Ra's al Ghul, whatever way you want to say it, League of Assassins approach. I hope they don't go that direction, but I just wanted to throw that out there whilst I could. But we got interesting context for Safiyah. We got a first look at her when she was looking out over Coryana, and how we learned in this episode how impactful and basically a universal cure-all that flower is for absolutely anything. We learned some of the drama and the history with how Safiyah says that Alice stabbed her in the back by taking the most precious resource from Coryana, making it available more or less for every opportunist in Gotham. And as predicted, as I said last week, in terms of when I was talking about the fight scene between Batwoman and Alice, I was like, look, there's no way you stand toe-to-toe with someone like Ryan Wilder, who's not mastered, whatever she said. She's learned like half a dozen forms of martial arts, whatever. I just knew they would have to give us some kind of background, and since we know she has a history with Safiyah, lo and behold, she says, you are always my best student. So Alice has all of a sudden got this like mega complex League of Shadows training to her. Obviously, it's not League of Shadows, but you get my point there. Alice, of course, like accuses her of killing Kate by blowing up the plane with her in it, and that's what the message was. But this is when, very interestingly, they wrote in such a way that Safiyah did actually blow up the plane, but throughout the episode she was wording it carefully by saying, you know, I'm afraid you've been misinformed. Someone wants you to think I've killed Kate. She goes on to emphasize that I didn't kill your sister. The last thing I'd do is draw attention to my island, because Safiyah is like the mega protector of Coryana. That's her utmost priority. It goes back in her family for generations in terms of protecting the secrets of Coryana. We got even further explanation of when Alice escaped her captivity. She groomed her to be a soldier, promised her an eternity of protection and health, but Alice obviously had her heart set on destroying the Kane family in Gotham, and when she tried to leave, she took a desert rose flower with her, which is basically breaking the cardinal rule of if you're a member of the Order of the Soldiers of frickin' Safiyah and Coryana. Now, through explaining just all of that chunk of like context we got between their time together, am I enjoying the Alice backstory here? I don't know yet. I'm going to see how it goes. But the thing I think I'm still here for is the grander mystery with what is going on with Safiyah, in terms of she has a lot more up her sleeve, and that is where we get into the Kate Kane stuff. She's manipulating Alice. I can definitely tell you that, and we'll get into that in a second, especially through what the showrunner has told us before. But before we revisit that, let's talk a bit more about the whole Zsasz side of things. So we had Zsasz arrive in Hamilton Dynamics, we had the Batcave on it, and that's when Batwoman met Zsasz in his kind of little room, or like hotel room, or whatever it was. I like how this is like a very seasoned Zsasz. This is one who's already interacted with Batman, so he's not really fazed by anyone. He's a very successful contract killer kind of person. But I wasn't a fan of when he just pulled out the frickin' RPG and just... Yeah, it's not so much pulling out the RPG, because, you know, who doesn't have an RPG under a bar, right? It's more of that, just like, it traveled through the glass. And I'm sure you're all aware, for an RPG, a rocket like that to explode, it has to hit something to explode. But the glass didn't make it explode, fair enough, it just smashed through it. It didn't hit the balcony that she just jumped off of, because there was no marks there or anything. It exploded beyond that. So it just exploded in midair for no apparent reason. No, this wasn't a timer. I'm sure you could use comic book logic to say that or whatever, but no, it's not like no, it didn't hit Ryan, obviously. So it's just like, how did that explode? And also the explosion came in two different effects. It's like the first one, and then it was a much neater explosion of like VFX on the second one. Now, this may be nitpicking, but I noticed these things. When it first exploded, it was reminiscent of a pixelated video game graphic kind of explosion, and then they cut to a different angle where it was a much neater CGI-esque kind of explosion. But either way, it was just a... I don't know, it was just pretty crap, if I'm being honest. Realistically, though, that RPG would have just kept going beyond the point of when Ryan jumped off, and then it would have hit into an opposite building somewhere and then exploded. Now, Batcave team were trying to figure out why Zsasz is going after all of these people. They came up with the genius idea of Ryan going and asking him himself, because I guess we're using Superman logic here as to why you wouldn't recognize the person under the mask. I'm kind of completely fine with that, because we have to be, because it'd be totally hypocritical of me to excuse that with other shows, movies, and basically any other comic book medium. She basically gets Luke to hack his phone with the money that was offered, and the mystery client was Safiyah. So the evident thing here is, even though we're getting all of these Safiyah scenes on Coryana with Alice, they're also including her in this present storyline in Gotham. So like there's a lot more to her than what meets the eye with what we're even being given with the Coryana scene. So I was enjoying all of that, seeing what her big plan is here, because as I said, with what the showrunner has said, that she is manipulative. She's deceiving even the audience right now. All is not quite clear with what is going on. We got demonstrations of the Desert Rose cure with how it completely cured Roxanne's cancer, and that's the same for anyone who got bit by a bat and then received the cure. So a lot of people, if you had some kind of terminal illness or anything for that matter, in theory, you're cured now, but I've got a feeling it might have some adverse effects. We might find out, or maybe not. If not, why not share this with the world? Because everyone can be cured, but I guess Safiyah has good reasons for not doing that. But Zsasz turns up, tries to kill Mary. Unless I'm completely misunderstanding it, he's killing Mary because of what Alice said to Safiyah with how Mary was the one who distributed it. So he's just like, oh, I'm going to kill Mary now. Is that right? I think so. But this is when we had the whole Forrest Gump style run, Mary run scene from Zsasz. Batwoman, of course, turned up with the new look, and yeah, it was just establishing that she is not Kate Kane. She's now her own Batwoman. It's like, fair enough, we all knew this was coming. The wig, in my opinion, is definitely better than trying to make Kate Kane's look work on Javicia Leslie's. This, even though it's very impractical, you could just grab the hair, it's still kind of cool. They, of course, had to like chuck in the line of, oh, now that is something. I haven't been kicked like that since Batman. So, you know, just kind of fleshing out the world even more and kind of giving credit to Javicia Leslie's Ryan Wilder for, you know, being pretty badass, I suppose. And as I said earlier, Zsasz could have killed her, but nope, evil kind of dialogue, and like that's how the little stick, you know, expanded and knocked him out, and that was bye-bye Zsasz. Wouldn't be surprised if we see him again at some point in the season, because I feel like you should capitalize on him if you're ever going to bring anyone back, because he was actually quite decent, CW, so you should do that. But putting all of that to the side, because fair enough, that was interesting, but I was more interested in the actual stuff that's going to affect the whole season with Safiyah. So we had Alice try and kill her with the little freaking beach shell. That didn't happen because, well, Safiyah is Safiyah, I suppose. I think Alice did have the opportunity to kill her, but she kind of hesitated in that moment, which gave Safiyah the upper hand. But then Safiyah dropped a little bombshell, which I think has some manipulation seeds in it, but is some grains of truth as well. With her saying, if I blew up Kate's plane with her inside, how could I possibly have this? And that's when she presented Kate's necklace, which one assumes that she's always wearing. So how could she literally have that if she blew up in the plane crash, right? So she was basically saying that she blew up the plane, but Kate wasn't in it at the time. And then it basically got revealed through Alice saying, well, I'm not leaving this island without Kate, that Safiyah said, she'll be brought back to the island as soon as you leave. I'm not foolish enough to have you both here at the same time. I have every intention of giving your sister back, but before I do, I need you to do something for me. The key words being that. So isn't it interesting how, yes, I get it at face value, it seems like Kate is alive, and I'm not saying that she isn't, because she has the necklace, but isn't it funny how she's not on the island and she's only going to bring Kate back to the island once Alice leaves, because she's not foolish enough to have them both on the island at the same time? Fair enough, right? That makes sense, right? So for all intents and purposes, she does have Kate, and Kate definitely is alive with her on Coryana, but temporarily she's offshore whilst Alice leaves to go back to Gotham. But before she has every intention to bring her back to her sister, she needs her to do something for her. Well, what did the showrunner say? Well, she's very manipulative. She manipulates Alice. Well, what could be going on here? Oh, I need you to do something for me? Well, maybe that is manipulating Alice, because as much as Alice wants to kill Kate, loves Kate deep down, but still wants to kill her, whatever reason Alice truly wants her back, she will do what Safiyah wants her to do, because that, in an end result, will get her sister back. But she hasn't seen her sister. She's just taking Safiyah's words, ones that are described from the showrunner herself to be manipulative, specifically when regarding this one character, Alice. So I've got a feeling that I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of reveal eventually that she basically doesn't have Kate, but she does offer this. That she knows Kate did survive, and that's how she's got the necklace, but she doesn't know where she is, kind of thing, or she did come into contact with me, but she went off somewhere else. I don't know, but I feel like she's playing the card up her sleeve through the fact that she's got the necklace, by saying, oh yeah, I have her, but she's just offshore somewhere, and you're just gonna have to believe me. But if you want her back, you're gonna have to do this one thing for me. She will probably in several to whatever episode's time say, yeah, I don't have her. But she is alive because I have a necklace, thus keeping the mystery of Kate Kane alive / Ruby Rose having left, but maybe coming back one day alive for seasons and seasons, potentially, right? You get where I'm going with this. Or she could actually be offshore and she could come back to the island and Safiya's keeping her this whole time. Safiyah, I know I keep messing that up. That's plausible, right? But I'm telling you, with what the showrunners described about this character being very manipulative, especially with regards to Alice, just the fact that she's got the necklace, I wouldn't be sold on that. And now, obviously, with Alice gloating this around to people like Sophie and that reaching Jacob, everyone's thinking that Kate's alive. And also, Black Mask. We got a little Black Mask moment with some setup there. And very interestingly, they reveal that Black Mask has more or less never been notorious in Gotham. He's never had a thing in Gotham before with Batman. How do I know this? Because they literally have the Crow guys say, what is his mask made of, Wood? According to my CI, that guy is at the top of the false face society. I'm not giving my boss a photo of some dude in a black mask. Like, so let me put it this way. If Black Mask was a thing in Gotham before in Batman days, the Crows would know who this guy is. Like, there'd be a big profile on Black Mask, just like there is with Scarecrow, his fear toxin that was mentioned in this episode with the snake bite being a combination of fear toxin and mushrooms. There's no mention of Black Mask, which I'm fine with. This is an adaptation. Black Mask may only come around in the days of Batwoman, which some fans might not like, which I don't understand because this is an adaptation, but that's straying it quite far from source material because Black Mask is traditionally a Batman villain, and now it's just a Batwoman villain because Black Mask is only being presented in Batwoman times. But that's up to you, I guess, you know, if you don't like it. But I don't mind it. We didn't get a look at him just yet, but at the end of the day, long-time setup. We keep getting False Face Society thugs on the street stealing stuff each and every episode, and now we're getting a reference to, oh, I'm not showing a guy with a black mask to my boss, so that will be his name. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, they pleasantly surprise me, just as they did with Victor Zsasz. So, you know, kudos there if they do go ahead and do that. But let's talk about Jack Napier. This is very, very interesting because Jacob Kane comes across a painting on Kate Kane's phone. And it was actually painted by Jack Napier. Now, Jack Napier is the name of the Joker from Batman 89. Joker has a billion gazillion different origins and technically no origins at the same time. So Jack Napier is one of the names, so is John Doe, and so is a billion others. It's one of the names. Like, for all intents and purposes, this is a actual painting done by the Joker. But Kate Kane decided to, like, write with her photo editor on her phone Safiyah on it. Why? Why on earth would she do that? And also that photo, I'd love to know your artistic interpretation of that, because hey, isn't that all what art is about in the eyes of the beholder? But it's this like black void. And I don't know if I would attribute it with madness, but I guess if you're thinking of Jack Napier being the Joker and him drawing a freaking painting, which is something I'm questioning as to why it's freaking hung up there. Like, why is that hung up? But either way, because I'm pretty sure they said that Joker was revealed to be Jack Napier. So why are they hanging that up? I have no idea. But back on point here. What's your take? I don't attribute that with madness, but like it's definitely a black void of evil, and I definitely think you can attribute that with Joker. But why does that link with Safiyah? So one thing about Batwoman Season 1 is they definitively, at least to me, said that Joker was dead. And this was quite an important scene between Luke and Kate Kane because it really spelled out that Batman had left Gotham because he broke his own cardinal kind of rule that you just can't do. Like, if he did, it would do something that actually led up to the events of why he left in the first place. If Batman kills, it kind of destroys him. That kind of makes sense as to why he might have hung up the cowl. Quote unquote from Batwoman Season 1, Batwoman says, "I broke Batman's code." And Luke quite literally says, "You think you're the only one. Ever wonder why the Joker hasn't reared his head in 5 years? He's not in Arkham, Kate. Both you and Bruce stared into the abyss." Reason why they could spin it into Jack Napier still being alive is, what if she used a desert rose on Joker? Because Joker has a very good way of somehow always coming back or staying alive. I don't know why Safiyah would do this in terms of keeping Joker around with, let's say, the desert rose, and this is a completely whack and reaching theory. I completely admit I'm not endorsing this really. But why would Kate Kane have a photo of this black painting done by Jack Napier, painted by him, and then written Safiyah over it? I'm not saying we're going to get Joker in this show. I would never, ever expect that. But there's a connection either way. Safiyah, Jack Napier, aka Joker, and Kate Kane. What could that possibly be? Either way though, guys, I don't know how to feel about it because we know we're never going to get Joker on the show. I'm not sure why a painting by Jack Napier, who has been revealed in Gotham, I believe in the show's history as Joker, is hanging up in a, I don't know, an art exhibit somewhere. I could be wrong, but I don't know how to take that. Either way, I'm intrigued nonetheless. I'm looking forward to see where this goes. As I said, I believe that Safiyah is manipulating Alice in terms of how much she actually does know that Kate Kane is alive. I'm not saying that Kate Kane is dead. I believe that they will pull, oh, she lived this whole time, despite drilling it in your head, oh, how could she survive? But Safiyah, I think, is straight up manipulating things here, and she's got a grander plan. And as for this episode, more interesting than last week, still not totally up my street. I think that's just with the inherent DNA of the show and its stylistic way of showing things. I'm just not fully subscribed to, kind of thing, which is fine because, you know, some people love the style and blend or music themes and Gotham that they've got a lot more than me. But what I will say is I'm intrigued still with the story they're setting up for the grander baddies and the grander storylines and the mystery that they have yet to really fully explain. But what did you guys think of this episode? Let me know down in the comments below. I would love to know your thoughts on my thoughts, my theories, my random blabber, of course. Like the video if you did like it, dislike it if you disliked it, and make sure you subscribe if you do want to see more thoughts from me on Batwoman and other comic book nerdy things. Do follow me on Twitter, that is where I'm most active on social media. Links to that is in the top pinned comment in the comment section, as well as my Discord server where you can talk to me personally about this stuff and other fans of comic book media. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat family, in the next video. Goodbye.